Hi, I'm Ralph Torrie. I'm going to say a little bit about energy and climate change. I'm currently working as the director of an initiative called the Trottier Energy Futures Project here in Canada, which is looking at how we can achieve a very low carbon sustainable energy future. The project is a collaboration of the David Suzuki Foundation on the one hand and the Canadian Academy of Engineering on the other hand. So it's bringing together two Canadian communities, two Canadian institutions who are both dedicated to a better future, but come at the question of energy and technology and environment from different perspectives. What we're trying to do in our work, and it represents, I think, an evolution. I've been picking away at this issue for most of my life, and what we're trying to do now is stand back and think about how does all of the energy, all of the pieces of the energy system fit together in a way that we end up with this unsustainable, high carbon, risk-prone technological system that we end up with in our energy system. And the way that we've been tackling the problem is to start from the starting point that, you know what, there really isn't any demand for fuel and electricity, first of all. Nobody wants a barrel of oil in their living room or a kilowatt hour in their hand. We want the services that these energy commodities, if you want to call them that, help provide. And so you can see automatically the system starts to get a little bit bigger than if you think of it only as fuel and electricity supply and demand, and it starts to expand into, well, what are the various types of behaviors and what are the various types of decision making that's going on in our country, whether it's in urban planning or architecture or finance or local government policy, that ends up giving rise to this unsustainable energy system. And again, that makes the system that we're that much bigger. We're expanding the boundaries around the system in order to help increase the number of solutions that we can see that would take us to a sustainable low-carbon future, and we're expanding the boundary in order to bring in fresh perspectives who can help us solve this problem, who have maybe not traditionally been engaged in the fuel and electricity debate per se. Now, the interesting thing that you find when you look at the system this way, and what we're looking for, by the way, are solutions. We're looking for practical things that anybody can do. We're looking for important things that our institutions and our governments and our businesses need to do. We're trying to figure out where are the pressure points in this big system where a change in decisions that we're making or a change in the behavior that we're exhibiting would have a big beneficial environmental impact and would bring our carbon emissions down. And the way we do that is we one by one go through about half a dozen or so basic source sectors of where the greenhouse gas emissions come from. You know, about somewhere around 15% of our emissions are due to the energy that we use in our homes, for heating them, for hot water, for running our appliances. So both from our furnace fuel as well from our utility, our electricity bill. There's another probably 17% or so that comes from personal transportation, and it's almost all cars. And it's all this travel that we're all doing all the time to get the things that we want. So we ask ourselves, you know, not only can we make the cars more efficient, yes we can, not only can we make the fuels friendlier, yes we can, but beyond that, can we somehow turn down the dial on just the amount of travel we seem to need to get access to the things that we want every day? And so that has implications to urban planning and so on. And we systematically go through all the sources looking for technological opportunities, yes, and they're abundant. We have a huge cornucopia of technological solutions. It's not to say that we're not facing some difficult technological challenges in achieving a sustainable energy future, and they're more severe in some areas than others. For example, freight transportation presents enormous technological challenges for improving the efficiency. But in most cases, whether you're talking about our residential heating use or our transportation energy use or the energy that we use in our offices and in our factories to do whatever we do there, there are lots of technological possibilities for using this fuel and electricity more efficiently, which is always, always, always the first, technologically, the first and most cost-effective thing to do. And then secondly, what can we do to increase the renewable, low-carbon, low-polluting, low-risk, low-waste supply options that are available to us from solar and wind and geothermal and hydro and so on. Beyond just identifying what we can do technologically, though, and as I said, whether you're talking about your own home or whether you're talking about where you work, efficiency is going to be at the top of the list. And then there will be other opportunities that will depend on your circumstances to bring in some of the new sources. But beyond those technological opportunities, we're also looking at, are there other things, given we have all this technological potential and it's not happening, what else needs to change in the system in order to accelerate the deployment of these low carbon options? Whose behavior has to change? Whose decision making has to change if we are going to get ourselves onto a sustainable path? And this leads us to a whole another generation and set of possible solutions for achieving a low carbon future that take us away from the world of technology per se and into the world of finance, into the world of business strategy, into the world of public policy, sometimes into the world of regulation. What you find is that the solution that seems to just on a purely pragmatic basis work best as you go from one source to the next, from home energy use to office building energy use to freight transportation energy use. In each case, you will identify a somewhat different solution, a somewhat different set of behaviors that are holding us back. In our home heating, for example, there's hardly a dwelling in this entire country of millions of dwellings that couldn't stand to have a significant investment made in it to up its energy efficiency levels. What's standing in the way? Because the technology is available. We have homes that are zero energy. So it can be done, but what's standing in the way in that case is typically financing. The homeowner can't necessarily come up with the capital. So our innovation and our focus on what are the political and the business solutions in that case tends to focus on we need innovations in finance. You might come, as I said earlier, to a sector like freight and you would say, we've still got a technological challenge here and we also have a problem. This is not an industry that has been particularly innovative. What can we do about that? And so on and so forth. Sometimes you'll look at a source and you'll say, you know what? Fuel and electricity is such an important contribution to cost in that area that if the price of fuel and electricity were a bit higher, you'd probably see quite a response. But it's interesting, usually that's not what you see. Usually what you see is that the cost of fuel and electricity is making a relatively small contribution to the total cost of whatever's going on, whether it's maintaining a comfortable house, you know, where your mortgage payments, for example, will be much larger than your utility and energy bills, and so on and so forth. And so what we're basically finding in this exercise is that we have to expand our literacy, and we can all do this. You can just do it in your own home. You can do it where you work. You've got to follow the energy upstream. Take a look at the end use of fuel and electricity, but then say, okay, where is this coming from? Why are we doing this? What practices can we change that might give us a more sustainable, allow us to use energy more sustainable? And you'll find all kinds of doors open to you. And behind most of those doors, there's not only a solution for reducing environmental footprint, but many other benefits start to flow. From green buildings to businesses that have tried to reduce their ecological footprint to simply household decision making to try and reduce emissions and environmental footprint. Almost every time, if you talk to the businesses and the firms and the households who have made these changes, they will say, you know what, there were other benefits that we never anticipated that resulted from us tackling the climate change, tackling the emissions issue. And so whether it's saving money, whether it's better air quality, whether it's happier employees, whether it's more profitability because of the money you're saving on energy costs, there's a long, long list of other benefits that come from tackling the climate change issue. This does not have to be a big negative thing, but we do have to act quickly because this system is not going to change overnight, and the acceleration of some of the changes that we're seeing in the weather and the climate indicate that we are starting to run out of time for the types of transitions that we need to make in the energy system if we're going to make it through to a more sustainable future.